Okay, let's remind ourselves what happens during the rock cycle. In this diagram we can see some oceanic crust being subducted or going under continental crust, and this is pretty much what's happening off of the east coast of New Zealand right now. Huge amounts of heat are released while this process is occurring, and it can cause large volumes of rock to become molten, and molten rock we call magma. This can get squeezed up until it hits the surface where it cools, and magma which has cooled and gone solid on the surface we call volcanic rocks. Sometimes the magma cools and goes solid before it reaches the surface, and rocks that are formed like this are called intrusive igneous rocks. We don't actually get to see them until the rock cover is eroded away and they become uncovered. Rocks that are exposed to the elements on the surface get weathered and eroded, and weathered and eroded material gets transported by rivers and glaciers, and ultimately this rock debris gets dumped in the ocean. And while the river's travelling really fast, it can hold on to large amounts of solid, but the moment it hits the ocean it's a bit like hitting a brick wall, and all the solid that it's carrying gets dropped into the ocean, and huge volumes of material can build up in the ocean, and eventually if there's enough pressure this material can get compacted to the point at which it's now a rock in its own right. And rocks that are formed like this by this process are called sedimentary rocks. Rock fragments deposited, buried at great depth and compacted till they become solid. As you're driving north from Auckland up to Orewa, you can see examples of this rock which would have been buried out at sea at one time, but it's been lifted up, and you can see layer after layer after layer of sedimentary rock in the cuttings as you drive north. Sedimentary rocks get buried even further. Ultimately they can get to a point where the temperature is so hot, the pressure is so great that the rocks get baked, they get transformed, and they also can get bent and folded into all sorts of shapes. And if this process continues even further, the baking of these rocks can reach the point at which the rock itself becomes molten again, and molten rock we call magma, and the whole process, the whole cycle can begin again.